Hey everybody, happy Sunday. Enjoying a nice bowl of Northwoods in my Boswell billiard. Great pipe. Love it. Anyhow, also enjoying a Ryan Ginger. Fantastic stuff. Anyhow, point of this video. This video is actually going to be a preamble to a video I shot this morning and didn't post yet. So I just thought I would be clear once again before I post this video. I wasn't going to post it. I was, then I wasn't. But with any video, I guess there is a bit of opinion, bit of personal view, whatever you want to say, right? But you have to take into account. What I want to be real clear about for those that watch the rest of this video and on through the 20 minutes is that I am not advocating for a second civil war. I am not advocating for a government coup. I'm not advocating for any of that, right? Just telling you some studies and some facts that I find very interesting. I find the Constitution very interesting, constitutional law very interesting, and I like to read and study. Not everything, especially constitutionally, not everything appears as everybody has been led to believe their whole life or growing up. I know that sounds stupid to say it that way, I guess, but the Constitution's black and white, and a lot of things that have happened throughout our lifetime has been in that gray area that doesn't necessarily align with what the 100% with what the Constitution says. It's just the way we've always done it. For example, the president concession speech. That's part of this next video. That's part of it. Okay. The concession speech is not law. It is not Constitution. It's just always been done. That's what I'm kind of talking about here. So, cut to the chase. I don't want to make this preamble 20 minutes either. If you watch this video, go in with an open mind. Not advocating for the Democrats. I'm not advocating for the Republicans. I'm just telling you from two sources of study what I have come to understand. And if you want to look up the sources, I'll give them to you. Would love to give them to you. First one is Van Jones. He did a TED Talk, and that TED Talk is entitled, "What if the U.S. presidential candidate refuses to concede after an election?" I'm sorry, what if a U.S. presidential candidate refuses to concede after an election? Check it out. It's very eye-opening. He did a heck of a great job with it. The other is an opinion piece that was posted in the Washington Times that dives into a little bit of constitutional law. And it was an opinion piece, but the title of it, if you want to look it up, this is the Washington Post, very credible source. Trump could stay in power even if he doesn't win the election. The Constitution allows it. So again, go into this video with an open mind. That's the intent of it. And I'm not wishing a war on us. I'm not trying to stir the pot. None of that. Just telling you what's out there. Find it interesting, so I made a video. So if you like it, great. Thumbs up. If you don't like it, thumbs down. Great. That is your right. And it gives me good feedback to what people like and what the people don't like. Anyhow, if you're going to watch, stay tuned, but go in with an open mind. Thanks, everybody. Have a great Sunday. Hey, everybody. Happy Sunday. Thanks for joining me for Sunday pipe and coffee, even though it's afternoon edition. Fantastic percolated coffee. So I've been doing some reading. I'm going to do an interesting video today that'll have political overtones. So I'll preface this video right now. I'm going to try to stay nonpartisan. I'm just going to tell you the facts, okay? If you watch this and it aggravates you one way or the other, please do not use the comment section for a war. I'll shut it down. I'm not looking to excite people and get them smashing one party's candidate or the other. Just not looking to do that. I'm not looking to stir the pot. I'm just going to tell you facts, okay? Facts that I've found from reading and some stuff I've been watching. So this is, and this all boils down to my video title, Are We Headed for a Second Civil War? Okay. Throughout history, usually on election night, the presidential candidate that loses generally, well, has pretty much always conceded. Now, that's not in the Constitution. That's not a law. They've done this for, quote unquote, the health of the country, the good of the country. It's what keeps people from rioting. It's what keeps people from fighting a war, okay? So how this basically plays out is the candidate that's going to lose just concedes, says, hey, we're going to concede this and want you to really support the other candidate. Let's move this country forward, continue on working stuff, blah, 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 okay? And it's over. Everybody's usually happy. At that point, everybody thinks that the popular vote, the general election, really made a difference, which I'll get to that in a minute. Technically, it doesn't. The Electoral College does per the Constitution, but we'll get back to that. But anyhow, that seems to keep people happy. People fall in line, and we move on. None the wiser. What people really don't realize is the actual the time to elect the president is really January 6th. When the Electoral College gathers with Congress. They send their electors to Washington, D.C., all 538 of them, 538 votes. And they cast their votes there. And that's technically, truly, by the Constitution, when the president is elected. Now, I could go down another rabbit hole here and talk about faithless electors. That's when an elector doesn't vote along state party lines. By state party lines, I mean if the state voted Democrat or Republican, the electors choose to vote the other way. They have every right to do that. They can do that. The winner of the popular vote, the general election, does not necessarily mean you're going to win the presidency. It pretty much always has, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to win the presidency, okay? Okay, so I told you, throughout history, there's been a peaceful transfer of power, a concession speech. The sitting president, and again, I'm trying to keep this so you don't know my political views one way or the other. I'm trying to keep this nonpartisan. The sitting president is in no way, shape, or form going to concede. That's just fact. He's publicly said it, right? And he's been setting the table for what I'm about to talk about here. He's been setting this table for months, talking about these mail-in ballots, questioning them, preemptively saying this is going to be baloney. And sure enough, the election was really close. And sure enough, the mail-in ballots were the hot topic. So essentially, he has set his table perfectly from a constitutional standpoint. Okay? Here's what could happen next. This is where people may get fired up. Aside from the fact that you don't really vote for the president, the electors do in the Electoral College. But again, you probably know that if you took a civics class. So If the president refuses to transfer power, what can happen? Well, basically, again, it's not a democratic solution. The Constitution calls for states, like I said, to choose electors, and the state's laws over time have passed that the state law says if I'm North Carolina and Republican wins North Carolina, the state law says we vote for that candidate that won the general election in that state. That's a law. That's not the Constitution. Okay? Here's where we get into tricky stuff. It's not a constitutional obligation for them to do that. Remember, I just told you a little bit ago, the electors can technically vote for whoever they want. And one thought I have is if all these mail-in ballots and ridiculousness goes on, and it is kind of fishy, they may go the other way. That is their right. Here's a scenario. And this article was actually written in September, and it has played out almost verbatim. November 3rd, the sitting president is leading. That was the case when we all went to bed. Looked like it would be a re-election. In the days following, the challenger garners a bunch of mail-in ballots, which the sitting president has already shouted out that this is probably going to be fraud and scam and blah, 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 blah. And it's going to call it into question, okay? Of the 9 swing states, here's something you got to know. The 9 big swing states that everybody's talking about, 8 of them have Republican legislatures. 8 of the 9, okay? So if one or more decides that the ballots are chaotic and we don't agree with our state, and all it takes is the governor and the secretary of state and the legislation of that state to say, you know what, there's irregularities here, it's marred, we're not going to follow the vote because we don't think that it was accurate. They can actually send electors who would be Republican to vote for the president. Who do you think they're going to vote for? Sitting president, okay? So if that happens, we go down another rabbit hole. Democrats will file a lawsuit. And again, I'm using Democrat, Republican now. I'm still trying not, I don't want to take sides here. I'm just telling you how the article flows in the terminology, because this is how it's playing out. So here come the lawsuits from the Democratic side. They've already started on the Republican side. Democratic governors, secretaries of states could send their own state of electors to Washington. And what's going to potentially happen is on January 6th, when Congress comes together and all these electors come together, there won't be a candidate that gets to 270. Now we got a problem. There's not a 270. So here's what could play out. There's not a 270. So, of course, Democrats and Republicans, this would probably be the one time that they would agree that, hey, potentially would agree. This is marred, it's irregular, the general vote doesn't count. Doesn't count. So, nobody got to 270. How do we get a president from there? Well, the Constitution, we're a constitutional republic. We're not a democracy. If we were a democracy, it'd be popular vote and it'd be over. Constitutional republic, so you have to follow the Constitution. The Constitution says at that point, the House of Representatives will elect the president. But each state only casts one vote. One vote. California, 51 electors, one vote. New York, 28, 29, I forget, one vote. Illinois, one vote. All the big Democratic states, all the big Republican states, Florida, one vote. Check it out. The individual House of Representatives, which is controlled Democratic right now, they have the majority. That's why Pelosi's the majority, the Speaker of the House. They don't get a vote. The state gets the vote based on the congressional districts. Okay? Guess what? There's 50 congressional districts, right? 26 of them are Republican. 23 of them are Democrat, with one being tied. So, if they vote party lines, President Trump, the sitting president, would be reelected. So, think about that. No peaceful transfer of power, no secession speech. It's not constitutional that the sitting president or the losing candidate has to do that. It's not a law that they have to do that. It's just always been done for the health of the country. But if you get somebody that potentially has an ego, which the sitting president does, no matter what side of the fence you're on, have a big ego, then you don't get a concession. Now you get lawsuits. And the lawsuits add up. And now you get states voting the way they want to vote. And most of these swing states are Republican controlled, like I told you. So they'll send their electors and that, whether it's Georgia, whether it's, I don't know about Michigan. I don't know of the 9, which ones are Republican controlled legislatures. I didn't dig that deep. But 8 of the 9 are. That is a fact. So here we go. We don't get to 270. We don't get a concession by either party. We have lawsuits all over the place. We have Supreme Court already weighing in. And the Supreme Court is right-leaning. We will not potentially... So there is a good chance that all the money spent and all the work done on the general election will mean nothing. It'll all be thrown out. It'll be thrown out. General election's done. So all that voting we all did and rushing to the polls and all those flyers we were getting in the mail, at least for president, would mean nothing. What happens next? This is where my contention comes in. My contention is I don't see either side backing down. Okay? And if you don't have a side willing to back down, what are you going to have? First grader in school can tell us that. The 2 biggest bullies on the playground get nose to nose and one of them doesn't back down. What are you going to have? You're going to have a fight. An ugly fight. And we're taught that in grade school. We know that kindergarten, first grade. That's why I think that's where we're headed. I hope and pray I am wrong. But this country is so divided now. And like it or not, the division we were so united after 9/11. This country was probably the most united it's ever been. People were hand in hand and cared about each other. And then the divide started, and it started under Bush, under a Republican. The divide started. The divide really, really, really started to occur and really ripped the country into 2 halves under Obama. Like it or not, it did. You see it on the nightly news, these riots, these protests, these fights. I think that is. It's because the country's divided, very radically divided. We have a far right and a far left, and the folks in the middle just, I don't know that there's enough anymore either side for common sense to prevail. That's usually what's kept us grounded, is those folks in the middle. Because there's always been a radical right and a radical left, right? It's always been there. So what's going to happen? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I can see, just John's opinion. I could see the Supreme Court weighing in, throwing out some states anyway, whether the state government does it or not. The Supreme Court potentially could say, you know what, Michigan, you know what, Wisconsin, you know what, Pennsylvania, you know what, Georgia, all these weird ballots that came in after you were losing the election. Because here's the thing, folks, you would have thought that a lot of the mail-in ballots would have already been in. Not tech necessarily, but you would have thought. I mean, I like the concept of mail-in ballots, but this is what happens. You don't have any control over it, because I used to be so anti-mail-in ballot, but being ex-military, there was times I needed to vote. I couldn't get to a poll. I was overseas. I needed to mail in my ballot. An elderly shut-in needs to mail in their ballot. They have a right to vote. A single mom that's working 4 jobs that can't get off because nobody's going to let her get off to vote, and she's got 3 kids at home to support. She needs a mail-in ballot. But there's got to be a better process. And I don't know if the mail-in ballots need to be in before the general election. And of course, you couldn't announce that publicly because then that could sway how people voted on election day. But you could have them, a representative from each state, from each party, with federal oversight, could potentially have these under lock and key with very few people that know the results, but they are done. They're locked up. And then we know on election night, as the votes come in, there's no more mystery, 140,000 votes found over here. And maybe every one of those was legit. But you have to scratch your head at to some of the stories to where some of the ballots were just voted for just the president. Nothing down ballot was marked. Nothing at all. Not even a senator. That's odd. It's really odd. Because most people, even if they're not, they may not flip the ballot over and get to the judges and stuff that are on the back. But most people will always vote everything that's on the front. And the local stuff sometimes is important. It's on the back, or on the back of the ballot. People forget to flip it over. That's what irritates them. But anyhow, didn't mean to poke a hornet's nest. I just wanted to shed some light on some things that are factual. They are constitutional. They are legal, which the Constitution supersedes essentially the law. So if we don't have a 270 majority on January 6th, the House will pick the president. And there are more Republican congressional districts than Democratic congressional districts. There just are. So unless 4 flip, you may see the sitting president lose the popular vote, lose the election, quote unquote, but be reelected president. Then you'll have war. There's no other way around it. Hell, we're riding over people getting killed by police. There's no way around. People aren't going to riot over this. Both sides. Again, hope I'm wrong. If you stuck with me this long, thank you. Appreciate you. Please don't tear up the comments below. I'm not looking for a political fight or a debate. Do your own research. It's out there. Some of this research that I pulled up was not written by a Republican party, by a Republican news outlet. It was more of a bipartisan or more left-leaning outlet. So, and this was in September, and it's playing out verbatim. Good Lord. We got problems to get through. So anyhow, folks, again, please, don't fight in the comments. No nasty negative stuff. I'm just not looking for that. Not starting a debate. I'm just being the devil's advocate. The what if. And maybe this is wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Trump concedes and says, you know what, I'm done. 4 years was enough. Let's get behind the new president, see what they can do. I just don't think that his ego will allow it. And he's already said it. So I think this is the path we're heading. Anyway, be well, folks. Wash your damn hands. We'll catch you next time. Have a great day.